Hello everyone and welcome to the demo for my project Sisters Portal with the organization anitab.org open source. And this is a project which was undertaken by me during GSoC as a part of GSoC. So coming to me, like about me, my name is Ritvik and I am a second year student at the Department of Information Technology at Jadavpur University. Speaking about my open source experience, it has not been like it is all an icebreaker with and the organization itself. So my first contributions in open source were for the portal and for VMS and this is where it all began for me with open source, and since then it has been great. So coming to my team, like it's our team. So beginning with May, who's the admin and the mentor for the project, and then we go to Sakshi and Sammy and Sanket. They are the three mentors who are responsible for the tech stuff and handling everything and helping me out whenever I'm stuck and reviewing the PRs and a lot many things. So one and all, this team provides every component which is required for a project to succeed. So right from testing to quality assurance to documentation. So this team consists of an expert for everything. So coming to why did I apply for this project? So basically, when I was going through the organizations list, so I found a few projects of few other organizations, but the uh, what with the principles of the project, I mean, the purpose, the bigger purpose the project serves, like bringing communities together, helping people meet and grow. So that was a big reason, and so that was one of the reasons. And then when I went through a number of projects within the organization, so I found that this project needed a major revival. So I mean, like it was in production, but like there were not many people using it, and there were a few changes which were needed to be done. So I thought I could be the right person for this work. And then thirdly, the work which was required on the project, basically it matched with my forte. So like my tech stack, and like I'm basically a backend guy, so mostly it was backend work. So I found this project would be the best one for me to apply. So I began contributing, and then I've been contributing ever since. So why is this project important? Why is the sisters portal important? So we've been seeing a lot of discrimination in the field of technology and development of women or other communities which are marginalized. So the portal brings all of them together so that they can work for each other and with each other for the development of each one in person and the community as a whole. So there is a need to connect communities across the world, so either virtually or in person. So that is done by the portal, and then people can share resources as well. So share resources, like there might be things which one thinks it is important, and like you can go on to share it with others, and you can see your community growing as a whole. So that is something very satisfying and very important for in the current scenario where everything is going with such going growing and working with such good pace. And thirdly, it also allows to host and attend meetups. So like what is the purpose of the the organizations or the people or the communities which are marginalized, or any other community for that sake? So when people meet, they share stuff, so they learn and grow. And now someone might ask this question, that why portal, why not some other organization, why not some other platform like Facebook, or we can have Facebook groups, or y'all can have Twitter community, tweets and all that stuff. But so that is where the marginalization occurs, right? So like this is not a social media platform. This is a place for people to learn and grow. So that is why the portal is different and is a need in the present scenario, so that people can make good use out of the resources which others have, and then share the same thing back with the community. So yeah. Yeah, so the mission of the project, as I said, it's to connect communities and post and share information within the communities. It helps organize meetups to increase community bonding and bonding within the sisters users, and to provide the user with a variety of resources to learn and grow and to make them easily accessible, and to add features which increase user activity within the community to help increase the outreach of the portal. So if we'll have a number of people who will be active in the group or in the portal, so we'll have more people joining in. So this is the reason why this project exists, and it is very important in the present scenario. So moving to the tech stack, so the languages used for backend, it's Python 3.7, and so basically, we are using a monolithic architecture as of now. And next is a front end. Basically, it's in vanilla JavaScript using a few other libraries specifically for Django and integrating front end to the backend. So yeah, and then the tests have been written in Python, that the unit tests with the Py tests which we speak of, and then there are a few Selenium tests as well for integration testing. And so the frameworks. So we've been using Django 3.09, which is not the latest, but it's pretty new. And so we decided to shift on it. Then we the Django AP scheduler for scheduling tasks. Then we are using PyJWT for JWT authentication with the APIs, and then we're using Django IPware to fetch user IPs from the meta headers, and then GeoIP2 to fetch locations based on the user's IP address. So then we can see jQuery, which is a front-end library basically for JavaScript library, which helps DOM manipulation better and makes DOM manipulation easier. So and it has a number of other features as well. And then we for styling it's mostly bootstrapped, and we've been using Ajax to give it a more realistic look without reloading pages and all that. And there are a number of other frameworks being used in the project as well, like there is City Lights for populating city data, and then there is ImageKit, CK editor for rich source fields and all those stuff. And then moving forward to the proposed timeline. So the first phase, so this is the decided timeline which we had planned on during the community bonding period. So this began with improving the community search, and then it went on to removing the meetup location dependency. And after that we moved on to the meet to revamp the meetup search, and then we shifted to improving the drop down UI and matching it with the open source website for anitaB.org. And then after that, this was all in the first phase. Obviously these features included the tests along with them. So adding meetup history features, so like to allow users to like update resources after the meetup is held, and then to generate suggested meetups so that users stick more to the portal, and to enable them to see more meetups and better suggestions so that they can make best use out of it. And then we come to the subscriptions for emails. So basically this allows users to be notified on the change in timings or change in locations for some meetups uh, he or she has RSVP to. That like we also give users like community weekly digests which contains the details of all the activity which is going around in the community. And then basically we move on to the third phase after this. So we have planned to integrate we had planned to integrate Zoom meetups, so users can create meetings virtually on our platform without having to go to any other website. So we plan to integrate Zoom API with it. And then was we plan also decided to keep a pinboard feature, which was basically allowing users to keep things under in their pocket. So like if you like something, you keep it in with you, so you don't have to like go and search for it the whole time. You just need to pin that. So yeah, so these were the features which were decided on. So we come to the accomplishments, everything I've accomplished during the phase, and the demo alongside the accomplishments. So the first feature, as I mentioned, was to enhance the community search. So um, basically we know that Django having, like, we do not have we when we use monolithic Django, so that does not allow us to make state changes in itself on the page itself without reloading the page. So for that we plan to use Ajax. So Ajax basically stands for asynchronous JavaScript and XML. So yeah, and so this is the feature as a whole. So this will there would be a trigger from the front end where the search would be triggered, and so an Ajax post request would be called, and that would search the terms in the Django view, and then the Django post method would be called, and the objects would be filtered. Like, so if you search something and then that post method is called, and you in the post method there are filtered objects using Django's ORM, and then after that we move on. We send the filtered data to the front end, and then the HTML is created using template literals, and the location points are plotted on the map to make it more intuitive, and then the maps and cards are rendered. So this is basically the map for the feature. So the demo. So initially you could see that. So this is the portal before. This is the portal before we had integrated it, like before we had worked on it. So you could see that whenever you go for a community, when you go under community dropdown, you won't find a search option. You would just find a list of communities which exist. So this would like create a ruckus in the drop down menu, and would not be very useful for the users. So we went on to remove all those community names from the drop down menu, and we made a search for communities page. So basically, so you can go and search, like there are two communities, demo communities, which I've made. So there is this ABC community and this XYZ community. So you could see all these two communities on the map, as on based on the location they exist. So you can just search. So if you search for ABC, so you just find this ABC there, and then you could just remove it, and then it comes back to normal. And also, like, you want to go to a particular meetup, so you just go there, and then you can find the details of the meetup. And then we come to this. We can also there is this window where you can click on the marker and visit the community as well. So this was a search feature which would allow users to be more, like, if you come to the home page, and then you could just go and search for communities and join a community which you are interested in, rather than just going through an entire list and finding it out. So after that, the next feature was to remove the meetup location dependency. So this, we speaking more on this. So this is the initial architecture which we were using in the portal. So whenever you had to, for example, you belong to Delhi, and so you need to host a meetup in Delhi regarding something. So you need to. So what would you think? You would need to just go and request the meetup, and the admin would approve the meetup, and that is all, right? But there was a bit of complication in this process. So initially you had to request the just a second. Yeah, initially you have to request for a meetup location if it does not exist. So for example, if Delhi does not exist as a meetup location, so you need to request Delhi to become a meetup location first. So if that location is accepted by the admin, so that meetup location is created, and then you have to become a member of that meetup location, and only then can you request meetups to be created under that location. So we tried to simplify this, and so after the change, it's basically user can come, and user can request meetup, and it's approved by the admin, and the meetup is created. So it's really very simple. Now, so one might think, okay, that's just a removal of some fields, but this was pretty much complicated. So we whenever we speak of a model, of the meetup location model in particular, So it has the models within it. So the meetup location model has the like meetup model, and then it has the add support request model, and then all those different models. And then there were foreign keys linked directly to the meetup location, and the meetup too was linked to the meetup location, as I said earlier. And then there were permissions regarding, so every meetup location had moderators, leaders, and community members who had different permissions to do different stuff within the portal. So everything was linked to the meetup location, not the meetup. And there were signals like whenever a meetup location is created, or whenever a user prompts for a to join as a member. So all those signals were also connected to the meetup location, and obviously then there were the views which were connected to the meetup location. And so removing the meetup location from here, it would like there is a link. The meetup location is the center part of it, so it would remove the dependencies among all those things, and it would be helter skelter. So basically these were the two changes, like before the change and after the change. So these are the two ER diagrams, or the UML diagrams, which you would say. So this is before the change. So like I would be showing a detailed view about of that in the slide. And then there is another one after the change as well. So like you can, like these links will be available afterwards where one can go and check them out. So okay, so after the meetup location was removed, so I would like to show what is the change been. So this is initially, so you could go and see the meetup location. So in this meetup location, you would have to request for a meetup. I'm not currently logged into the old one. So you would have to request for a meetup, and then you would meetup location, and then you would go to the meetup, and the meetup would be created. So there is already a location existing. So you can see the London location, and then you can, under this location, you would create meetups. Whereas now it is pretty simple. So you can just go and request for a new meetup, and then you could add some XYZ meetup, and then just some random slugs and details, and the time as well. And you could just request for a meetup, and there is some random detail. So you could just request for a meetup, and the request is submitted. And once the meetup is create, like the request, I'm currently logged in as an admin, so I can approve the meetup requests as well. So I go to the meetup request, I check out the details, and then I approve the meetup request. And that is all. So yeah, the meetup is created, and you don't need to do anything about that. You don't need to create a location anymore. And also, as you were the one to prompt for the meetup, so you have been made the admin for the meetup, as the leader for the meetup as well. So you can see you're the community leader for the meetup. So you'll be managing all the support requests and various things. So yeah, this is the feature, buy and hold. And so next we move on to the meetup search, which needed to be revamped. So like there is not much to. So when you go to the upcoming meetups page, this is the old one. Okay, so yeah, so you can find this particular search. We need to go under the meetup location, and then you need to select a date, and then you need to put keywords, and then you need to sort by date, and then you need to add all different filters, and then you submit, and you get the search result. So one obviously uses a search box to simplify things, but this search box, first of all, it was not in compliance with the architecture which we had changed, because there was no more location uh, principle anymore. So this had to be removed, and then we had to simplify it based more on the locations basically. So yeah, so this then this is the meetup search view, which this is the revamped view. So initially I'm presenting from localhost, so this shows mountain view here, because I have applied the IP address for mountain view and in my backend. So for the localhost, because in the localhost you can't fetch the IP from the meetup headers, from the URL header, the meta headers. So uh, you can search for meetups before. For example, you need to search for meetups near, like based on the location of Mountain View. So initially you could see there is a list of all meetups which exist. So you could also see like some meetups are being held virtually. So there is this held virtually on Zoom thing available. So you want to search for a Python meetup maybe. So you can go for this meetup, and then you could submit, and then you would see that this Python meetup comes up. And it also shows the distance from your location. So it's in Adrog, which is 9600 kilometers from Mountain View, California. And you can change the location as well. So yeah, so maybe why not just try another search. So yeah, so basically we can see if this all of this is sorted date wise. So the meetup which is to be held earliest is shown first. And when you search, so for example, you can see this meetup is in Buenos Aires, Argentina. So we can just go and click over here and just look for meetups near that. So you would find it takes a bit of time sometimes, but because that is because one needs to query and to look for meetups and calculate the distance. So you would basically, what would happen here is you would see that this is 0 kilometers from here, and it would be like you would be the first, that would be the first option basically. So we can try again and we can check out if it works or not. So basically, yeah, so here we see 0 kilometers from my location. So, or this is the meetup, which is 0 kilometers, and then you can go and check out the meetup and different aspects, and you can just. So I'm like I'm logged in as an admin, so I have various other features as well. But one can just RSVP to a meetup, and then all those kind of different changes regarding the meetup. So basically, the changes in this were initially the architecture change, which I spoke about regarding removing the meetup location, and secondly, there was design change as well. So you could obviously see the difference between the two designs, and then there were tests written for the meetup, which needed to be removed, and new tests had to be written. So that was a part of it as well. So for this feature over here, where we fetch the meetup head like IP from the meetup from the meta header, so we are using IPware for that, and for fetching the locations based on the IP, we are using GeoIP2. And the third was the final one for the first phase was to revamp the community, the UI for the whole dashboard, or basically not the dashboard but the drop down. So if you would visit the open source website for the organization, you would see that it was initially very different from the portal. But when you so initially this was the, so you had to click on everything, so for different drop downs to open. And so this was not something which was very similar to the one which existed earlier. So this is the one which is changed now. So you can just hover and you'll find a whole list of meetups and communities, and then it is more good looking and more in compliance with the actual open source website. So users don't feel it's very different from the organization itself. So the next one was to enable meetup history. So like, we usually see that in meetups, whenever meetups are held, so there are a number of resources shared as well. So like you need an option for like, and there are images as well. So you need an option where you would like to just go and you would what do you say, you would just add some details after the meetup is held. So there was no provision for that. Like once the meetup is held, then you could just see the details, but you could not add resources or views. So this feature was implemented by me to allow users to see and share resources. So basically when you would go on this any meetup, so you could go on past meetups, basically those are what I'm speaking about. So you go for a past meetup, and so they said, for example, there is this meetup 3, and so meetup 3 has already been held. You can see it was held on 22nd August. So now you can't like see there's no detail for the meetup. But for example, there were some resources shared and some other images shared for the meetup, which would be it would be better if someone would have, someone wanted who wanted to have a just could go and fetch for the resources. So you just go and see the edit meet. So this is just for adding the resources. So you could add a few links or a few other resources as well. So this is basically a rich text field where one can just attach files as well and attach links as well. So basically facebook.com for example, and just you can just add that link over here and it's just added. And then you could also add a few images as well. So you could go and for example, I want to add these three images which were a part of the meetup for example. So I add those three images and I just click on the submit button, and then we can see more better looking field. So this is a carousel, and then you could find the links for the resources as well, and you could embed videos as well over here and other PDFs and all those kind of embeds and codes as well. So if one would want to see, and this add resource thing is specifically for the community leader or the admin, because we don't want anyone and everyone to edit it. So there the permission was taken care of as well. So moving on to the next feature. So yeah, before that, I would like to speak of the way this was done. So basically, as we know, Django doesn't support multiple image uploads. So the change you saw, like the field you saw, so over here. So this was done by using a library called Django multi upload. So when so this is similar to the HTML5 multi-file input, and that is done using Django multi-upload, and also a few other changes in the model allowed us to view the like to create the entire view for the history. Subscription emails. So this is an important part of every organization for to keep the users like in like the user should know what is going around in the organization or the communities they are linked to. But the portal did not have anything of such kind, so we decided to add this feature as well. So this allows users to receive updates from their communities, and then can user can also opt to receive reminder emails from meetups and change in location. And this is implemented using Django AP scheduler. So this scheduler basically allows us to use the Django job store to add various asynchronous jobs and schedule them. They're basically cron jobs which you schedule to for the emails to be sent and for the reminders to be made. So you could go to this email settings page. So we do not want to just simply like we do not want to spam the user. So once the user decides to, like, you can just select whether you want to get notified or not. So see, there is this reminders, and then you get notified on the change in timings for the meetup. You also get notified for change in location, and you would get a receive a weekly digest from the communities. So for example, you could just select or remove that, and then yeah, so you could just see this email setting over here. Now we could see that in this upcoming meetup list, so there are these meetups existing, right? So if you go on and go on to the admin panel, as I'm logged in as an admin, and you see the go into the Django AP scheduler and Django jobs. So as I told about the meetups which were already created and which have users, so I've actually RSVP'd for the meetup. So that is the reason there are the reminders for the meetup. So if there is no user, there is no reminder. So it is basically done on this concept. You could also see this users.schedulers.weekly digest. So what this would do is it would send a weekly digest email to all users who have like requested for the weekly digest in the settings, and for all the communities which they are linked to. So this would basically send the email every Monday. So the next Monday is the 31st of August. So every Monday at 5:30 a.m. A meetup email, like a weekly digest email would go. And then you would also receive emails for different change in timings or meetup. So here I go and get select this to get notified on change in timings, and then I go to a particular meetup. And so for maybe this meetup, and then I go and I RSVP for the meetup. And yeah, so I've RSVP for the meetup already, and then I go to edit meetup. So for example, there is a time change on the meetup. So when you change a time and you submit it, so you can just go and see this a new job is added over here. So for example, here I've used it just to for 5 seconds, so you can see I've triggered it for 5 seconds. So after the change, it would just send a notification email, which is a subject notification for change in location for this meetup. And then it will be from the organization name once it's in production to my email ID, stating that this is to inform that this timing for this has been changed to so and so this would allow users to be up to date in this case as well. And you could also go on to check that once the meetup once the notification is sent, so you won't see this present in the jobs anymore. So there was a time in those 5 seconds when a job was added, but now it's no more because it's been executed. So this was a very important feature which would allow the user interaction and the community interaction to increase within the portal. Next was creating suggested meetups. So this was implemented using TF-IDF, that is basically like inverse document frequency and term frequency. That is a statistical method to calculate similarities between or to find like patches of similarities between texts or descriptions. And GenSim basically creates a similarity object by like breaking the data into shards and sub-indexing them. And so basically there was a lot of research work done onto this as well. So whether we should go for the TensorFlow TF-IDF or whether we should go for NLTK, and how should we implement it. So basically using TensorFlow, using scikit-learn's vectorizers and using scikit-learn's TF-IDF, you would require another list of inverse document words for matching, for calculating the document frequency and all those kind. Whereas NLTK had its own inverse document available, so that was simpler. So basically, it involved two parts. First was the training of the corpus and creating the API, which would return the score, the score, the change, like the score which is closest to the current meetup you're viewing. And that then the second part was integrating it to the front end. So having a better view at it, you could just find that. So you go to a particular meetup and then you go for a tech meetup, for Python meetup. So you're having a Python meetup. It has a description. So it's for this for Python programmers and all those kind of stuff. So when you're viewing a Python meetup, so this in some way means that you're interested in tech meetups, right? So there are a number of meetups available, but when you see a tech Python meet, so you see the closest meetups which has been suggested is the Golang meetup and the women who code meetup. So everything related to code. And then if you want more details or you want more details on a particular meetup, you can just click and go for this, and you could find the details. So similarly, so if it's a Golang meetup, so you would find women who code and tech meetup having higher preference. This is done uh, as a part of the GSoC project only. And then you could go to view all and have a look at all the meetups which are present as well. So this was important. So for users to fetch for better meetups, and like one would obviously not know what meetups are being or like organized nearby, and so you could just go and have a look at our suggested meetups, and maybe you find something important. So basically, we have this Zoom integration, API integration as a part of the project. So when you go to a particular meetup, so for example, you want to request a meetup. So you can do two things. So initially, you could request a meetup, which is normal, or you could go in for a virtual meetup. So when you go in for a virtual meetup, it won't ask you for a location anymore, as you see, or a venue, because it's virtual. And then you would want to create a new meetup, for example, some random meetup, and then there is some random slug, this date, and the description, and then you submit. So once you submit, the request for the meetup is submitted. You'll go and see, me being an admin, I can edit and I can approve the meetup as well, as said earlier. So I would go and I would approve the meetup. So as this is a virtual meetup, so you can see a URL, a join URL, which has a Zoom URL over here, which is being shown on the meetup page. So you can see two URLs here. So one is the join URL, where any other user who wants to join the meetup can join. So if you're interested in a meetup and you go and see, okay, this is the Zoom link, so I can you can join using this URL. And the other URL is a start URL. Now, obviously, we need to differentiate the user from the host, right? So for someone who wants to just attend the meetup to from and someone who's the host of the meetup. So the start URL is to be used only by the host of the meetup, and me being logged in as a host can see this URL. If you're someone logged in as a normal user, you won't be able to see this. You'll just be able to see this join URL. You won't be able to see the start URL over here. And so this would take us to a meeting link, but I don't want to, like, you would just go and launch it and you can just attend. So basically, I would move further to the meetup, and also, like, there has been the complete API integration. Like if there is a edit in the timing as well, so all that would reflect in the link. Again, pinboard feature. So as I said earlier, that Django having a monolithic architecture does not allow simplicity in a lot of things. So we again used Ajax for that. So for example, so the communities have different resources under them. So for example, you see some resource and you feel, okay, this resource is important. I may have to look for this resource and see, like, check out this resource later in my, like, whenever I'm free or whenever I feel it's useful, I can just go and look up for it. So this was done using creating Ajax requests. So basically, a request was triggered whenever you click on the pinboard button. So basically, you can see this section my pins over here. So there are no pins initially, and then each community would have some pins. So for example, the resources. So for example, this ABC community has a few resources shared by the community within the community. So for example, you go and see this resource over here. So this is resource one, and you feel that, okay, this might be important. So when you click on this, so this triggers a request which would create which would add this to the pins over here. Yeah, so you can see initially there was no pin, but now you can see the pin added. So you could go and again you can add some more pins as well. So basically, or you can remove them as well. So yeah, if you remove it and then you could just go for my pins, so you'll not find any pins anymore. And then you could just go to the resources and you want to pin some other things. So for example, you've pinned this, and then you go and you pin this as well, and we pin this as well. We see this, check this out, and we pin this. Now we can go and for the my pins, we can just have the pins, and if you want to remove a few pins, so that is fine as well. You can just have a few pins, and when you click on that, you are just directed to the pin. So this was a feature which was implemented. This was one of the last features which was implemented by me during this third phase. And coming to the tests and documentation. So whenever uh, whenever we are changing anything or we are adding a new feature, so advised to add tests for the meetup as for the feature as well. And when I joined the portal, so the coverage on the project was pretty high. So whenever there would be a small change in any, or adding a feature or adding a field, so there would be a number of tests failing. So that was a part which I had to handle at every phase. And then adding tests for the meetups was also for meetups and for other features as well. So you could just we have added a test for a number of features over here. So for example, the meetups, you could go to the test views and you could see there has been uh, tests added for the search meetup view as well. So you could see there are different, like, there is every part of it is tested, every post view or every object is tested. And there have been tests written for the users views and signals as well, like for the user settings and the emails that have been tests written for that as well. And so basically, our attempt was to write tests for every feature which we implement, and we were successful like quite an extent, and we have been able to like keep up to the coverage. And the second part of the work was documentation. So whenever any feature is added, so you would obviously want to save it somewhere so that the users get a more detailed view or the more detailed information about every feature you've added. So continuously adding those tests or adding those details to the wiki was also a part of GSoC and only. And so you could just go on to anitab.org /portal/wiki to get all the details, and on GitHub obviously. So coming on to the challenges I have had, so initially as I of the failing tests. So any feature I would add would result in failing tests. So there were many a times when mentors and I had to attend meetings and work on the failures and just try different ways out to just implement things and to move on with the project. The other challenge I had to face was the ongoing open source work on the project. So there were a lot of contributors apart from my GSoC work who were continuously contributing, and so there was a major change from Django 1.11 to Django 3.09 during my work as only. So that was a major change where I had to where I had to make changes in my existing PRs. And so that the mentors like they helped me on this one as well. So like they helped me create the fresh migration so that I don't face much errors. And the third challenge I had to face was writing production quality code. So when with this being my first open source project, so I was not very I was not much aware of how do we write a good quality code. So I was aware of how to build stuff. I knew how to build things on a different tech stack, but I wasn't aware how to write good quality code, unbreakable code. So that was a challenge initially. Like there were times when we had 70 to 80 comments on one PR, and then after all the changes, it finally got merged. And so that taught me a lot. Second, styling and maintaining the consistency. So adding any front end created a challenge of making the front end similar to the making the page similar to the existing pages. So yeah, so to keeping up to the styling, and me not being very good at styling, that was a challenge for me as well. Managing documentation alongside code. Whenever we add a feature, so we tend to just whenever we do some, we implement some issue or we implement something, so we want to just go on and jump to the next issue and just implement the other one, and then in the meanwhile you forget to do the documentation. So during my first 2 weeks, this was the case, but after that, I kept up. I had difficulty, but I kept up to the documentation, and after every feature I implemented, I added it to the documentation. We had to make daily Scrum check-ins. So initially, it was a bit difficult to match the timings and to just be punctual and put in the check-ins on times. So that was a difficulty and a small difficulty. And then we going on to writing blogs. So I was completely new to writing blogs, and this organization taught me how to write blogs. So initially it was a bit of challenge, and but later I got good at it, and then I have a few one of my blogs also accepted in the Medium curators list. So yeah. Next, coming to the future ideas for the projects. So there are basically four ideas which I personally feel that should be added to the portal. So we could have the portal on the Android platform as well. So this could be either done in two ways: creating an Android app or a progressive web app, any one, and then it must be in compliance. It must be in compliance with the current web version, so having all the features with the current which the current one has. Second is a personalized dashboard, which would allow a user to have a more personalized view showing all user activity to have better usage of the portal. Thirdly would be to increase the coverage on portal. So as I said, that mostly tests have been written for all the features, but still there is a scope for the coverage on the portal to increase. And fourth one, I would say we are using a monolithic architecture, which is not used much nowadays. So it would be good if we shift to a REST API backend structure so that we could have better development on the project. We could add different front end frameworks as well. So my takeaways. So I've already spoken about it. Writing tests for the features. I was new to tests. I did not know how to write tests and why were tests important. But after a while, the tests like getting, I got to know that okay, this is why the tests are written, because so you would just add a feature and then you would want things to work the perfect way, but you don't usually, humans tend to like skip things, and we don't realize that okay, adding this thing would tend this like would lead this to break as well. So the tests written were important for this to for me to like I got to know why tests were important, and I also learned how to write them. Time management, obviously, working with a team and working virtually is a difficult task, and especially so when you have meetings and you have to be punctual in your check-ins, and you have to be punctual with your work and deadlines. So that was a takeaway from this. And so GSoC was like I was already aware of how to use Django and basic JavaScript, but it's basic vanilla JavaScript. But like I got to know about a number of different frameworks, like a number of them, a huge number of them, right? From like what they do, and like I was stunned to know that okay, there is a framework available for every small thing on the what do we every small thing on this on GitHub. So I got to know about a lot of frameworks and how to use them. Second, again, I spoke about writing good quality code and documenting work, which were two very big takeaways. Apart from this, I got a huge like this is I've got a very good team, which is going to be a benefit, and I learned how to be a team member and to be managing to be working with a team to host meetings, to attend them, to take notes and everything. And then my overall experience. So my overall experience has been amazing. It's been amazing. I have learned a lot of things. I've learned how to write quality code. I have learned how to be punctual. I've learned how to document things. I have got to know why certain things are important and why they need to be present, and uh, how they need to work. So like that, and apart from this, so yeah, i've earned I've earned a lot of experience in writing a good quality code, and I've learned a number of frameworks, as I mentioned. So overall experience was amazing. I would like this cannot these 3 to 4 months cannot be just summed up in a few minutes. So uh, right from the team bonding meetings to the community open sessions, it's all been amazing. So yeah, thank you. That is all from my side. So if there are any questions, they can be asked. So if there are any questions,